Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.
Hello, this is your WIllie, and you know what time it is? It's Little Fishy time! Little Fishy time! I know what you're saying. You might be thinking, did I just get kicked out of my place? No, it just got overloaded with what they call humans. So I'm just gonna rely on the settled place of the fresh air. So here, I'll be giving my quick thoughts on the recent movies that came out on this winter. Now, since there's been plenty of movies coming out, not just in theaters, but in Netflix, I am unfortunately not gonna do them all, but only the ones that I had the chance to see. And out of these 8 reviews, we're gonna open up with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Can you believe this was actually made by the same people that created this meme from Satan? And I say that because it doesn't look like it. This Spider-Man is getting plenty of comparisons to the Mask of the Phantasm. That being, they're both animated superhero films and have been considered as the defining movies to their particular heroes. And in this case, it could be. This Spider-Man is not just comedy for the sake of comedy. It is emotional, it is adult, it can get dark, it has mature themes. But the most important, this Spider-Man stands out from the rest of the other movies. If I would have seen this variation of Spider-Mans as a kid, I would have loved it even more. They make something effectively new with Peter Parker, the new Spider-Man lead is fresh and interesting. Now if this would have been a live-action movie, maybe it wouldn't have worked as well. But because the animation helps it stand out, it can go out loud with creativity, the villains, the colors, the movements. In a Spider-Man world as colorful as this, I can probably stick around a lot longer to this one. There's a fish that has a problem with cartoons.
You got a problem with cartoons?
Let us now move on to the Ballad of the Buster Scruggs. The Coen brothers have arrived to Netflix to deliver us an entertaining anthology of 6 stories about the life in the West. The stories don't cross over with each other and don't always have a cohesive tone. Some are as entertaining as the first story of Buster Scruggs, the most memorable out of all the characters. He might as well be an upcoming Looney Tune. Others are more dramatic, like the third story with a young lame man who's exploited for money. If there's a theme they all share, it's greed and death in the West. Greed is what motivated most in the West. Death is a present theme in each story, showing us that the West was oftentimes wild, dirty, and even dangerous. Some anthologies were better than others. My favorites were the one with the Buster Scruggs, Dudley, and the gold miner. James Franco seemed like a waste, the 5th seemed too long, and the last one wasn't as good as the others. Though it's still a worth recommendation if you're in the mood for some short, yet good stories. There's a fish that...
Must join the Looney Tunes.
Up next, we have Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. J.K. Rowling has returned to expand the Wizarding world in this new series of prequels. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the first movie. Crimes of Grindelwald doesn't help me much to get on board with this new series of prequels.
Something I realized about this sequel is why I didn't care much about the first movie. It has too many characters that add nothing, at times I felt a bit confusing to follow, but my main fear for this prequel's existence is just for a fan-made fight between Grindelwald and Dumbledore. Now this might be too early to compare, but let me mention this other prequel's existence and why it had more to offer. Yes, the whole payoff was to see younger Vader fighting a younger Kenobi, but there was much more to it than just a fight. It was showing us how did Vader become evil, how did the Empire turn into a dictatorship, how did the Jedi become extinct. There was so much leading up to how we got to the bad guys ruling in A New Hope. If this prequel is just building up to a fight that affects nothing in the Harry Potter timeline, then it's not good enough to make me invested because everything else is just a filler. Now yes, Dumbledore and Grindelwald relationship is the most fascinating. In fact, Jude Law was the best actor in the movie, but outside of that, they don't give me anything that's worth mentioning. I didn't care about Newt's romance, I didn't care about his friends. I kinda care for Ezra Miller, Johnny Depp was a bore. I only care whenever they got back to Hogwarts. Oh boy, now I wish this could have taken place in Hogwarts, because this has stopped being fantastic for me. There's the fish! I got a spell cast.
Ridiculous!
Now let's move into something that is more Netflixy. Up next is Roma, the most hyped up movie in Netflix and the most anticipated in the Mexican community. Probably because it's been nominated for the Oscars as it is rumored.
Roma was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who directed Prisoner of Azkaban, Children of Men, y Tu Mamá También. This is a personal story from his childhood based on the settled point of view of his nanny about breakups, social standards between the poor and the medium class. Now if you think this is gonna be a dramatized product of Hollywood, well, guess again. There's hardly any story and nothing seems to happen for most of the time. But it draws you in for how well shot the cinematography is, with the camera just traveling but not moving from its standing point. Roma is an artsy film inspired by some of the classics like Fellini's The 400 Blows, the Italian neo-realism. While I did love the camera shots, I didn't always love the characters. They could be dry and frustrating, but from Cuarón's view, he didn't want to create soap opera characters. He wanted to create real people in real life situations. Roma is not for everyone, but it sure could be one of Mexico's modern classics, not from the entertainment, but in the art. There's a fish that needs to learn the art of Latin lover.
If you follow my channel, then you have probably heard me talk about The Other Side of the Wind, so I'll try to keep it minimal. But it's still worth re-mentioning it as one of the great films that many may not know of.
The movie has all the means to become legendary, from its directorial association with Orson Welles, the creator of Citizen Kane, and the complications that led finishing the film since 1976, all the way to Netflix releasing it in 2018. The movie's an artsy experiment of camera techniques, as an example in The Party where it goes from color to black and white, to give it a documentary feel, which in fact it's a mockumentary of a film within the film about the struggles of releasing The Other Side of the Wind. Just like Roma, this is not for everyone. It can be jarring and confusing, but this is the one I felt the most original of and most refreshed of from all the remakes and blockbusters we've gotten lately. This could be my favorite movie of the year and one of the best American movies in a long time, thanks to the mind of Orson Welles.
That's a fish. I want to ride all the way to the shines of midnight.
We then move on from something original to something that's not original. The Grinch. Boy, I'm a bit surprised. This wasn't as obnoxious as I thought it would be, knowing how little patience I've had recently with Hollywood's animation.
From the studio that gave us this abomination comes the third remake from the classic story of Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas in a Small Town of Whoville. As I said, this story has already been told many times, from the Chuck Jones animation and to Jim Carrey's interpretation. This one I would put it as the second best, before the Jim Carrey one, because not only does it not play that much to pop culture, it stays faithful to the story and the message about anti-commercialism, even though underneath it's a big loaded commercial, but it didn't feel like it was selling me something. My only gripe is with this Grinch, voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. Nothing wrong with his voice, except that this Grinch is too soft and compassionate when he's supposed to be this bitter, disgusting prick that enjoys the pain of others. Outside of that, I'm just glad it felt more like an emotional story and less like a commercial.
There's a fish. I will make him liver, even in holidays.
For my following third animation review is Ralph Breaks the Internet. What a delight! Sony and Illumination have finally made something that I enjoyed. Disney can fall in that same category for making a story that is so complicated seem so simple for kids.
The story of a video game character crossing over with some others can be challenging, but how harder can it be when adding the internet, more video game characters, and spoofing the bread and butter that made Disney into what it is now? I'm a sucker for Easter eggs and noticing references like the phone apps. Nevertheless, I still had problems with it. At times it felt more commercial, Penelope rescuing her video game world felt unimportant, the climax was corny, and I feel this is gonna be a product of its time that will not hold up later on for how quickly the internet can change. But still, I give them credit for making such a complicated story like the internet into something simple. It spoofs very well the cultural and social behavior of social media without coming out as the emoji movie. Still, was I the only one who noticed a little lesbian tension and, you know, a little pedophilia? Well, here's a place for anyone who has some needs. There's a fish that forgot to go to the other side of the internet.
And finally, we conclude this with Netflix with Mowgli. Ever since I heard it would be directed by Andy Serkis, the master of motion capture, I was very much looking forward to this story. Well, even though it didn't quite live up to the special effects, it is still a solid story that surpasses any live-action interpretation of the Jungle Book.
Now the big issue with Mowgli is that it was supposed to be released before Disney's own version, but as it turns out, it got delayed with Disney beating them. At the end, Mowgli settled as a Netflix release instead of its original theatrical one. This suffers from being compared to the Disney version, which is more graphic, more adult, and more faithful to the dark themes of the book. Although, that's why I appreciate it a lot more. I loved it when it got dark. The actor Mowgli got me sucked into the story whenever it gets more daring and challenging. I've seen it 3 times already, and the more I see it, the more I notice a few more problems. The effects can be bad, like sloppy bad, but makes it up with great emotional characters and great emotional story, which I can forgive. I'm just surprised knowing Christian Bale as this method actor didn't get surgery to look more like a panther. There's a fish that knows not the law of the jungle.
Now, if you missed any of these reviews, here's a quick recap of what I thought about these movies. Into the Spider-Verse is a thumbs up, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is a thumbs up, Fantastic Beasts 2 is a thumbs down, Roma is a thumbs up, The Other Side of the Wind is a thumbs up, The Grinch is a thumbs up, Ralph Breaks the Internet is merely a thumbs up, and finally, Mowgli is a thumbs up. And as an honorable mention, Creed 2 is a thumbs up. Boy, I think I went too soft on these movies, but overall, I thought this was a good winter for movies. But what do you thought about them? Were they good? Were they not good for you? Leave your thoughts on the comment section to see what you thought about these winter movies. And if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe for more content. My only resolution for New Year's is to get back to my old place so I can keep making more videos. Well, as this being my last video of 2018, thank you guys for following up. But don't go anywhere. Tune in next time for more reviews and comparisons to come next year. So for now, that's it for today. Ciao.
Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.